What do you say to taking chances? Not me coming in with a Celine Dion a cappella cover, but that's exactly what this video will be about, taking chances. I've talked previously on my channel about this idea of really wanting to lean into my instincts in person when I'm interested in a guy and trying to rely on our built-in instincts of, is there something here, versus what I think I've become so accustomed to, like I'm sure many of you have, which is relying on dating and hookup apps, and therefore sort of those in-person instincts being weakened to the point where like I never really meet somebody in person. It's not enough to just talk about it and say, oh, I really want to work on that. You got to practice what you preach. It's a new year, it's a new dawn. What's up with my musical references today? It's a new day, it's a new dawn. It's a new year, the time that I'm making this video, 2026, and I've been consciously trying to make more of an effort in person, walking around town, when I'm on the boardwalk running, when I'm running errands, going to Whole Foods to get groceries, to be more present and aware of my surroundings, more observant, and making more of a conscious effort as well to even just make eye contact. So it's not enough to talk about it, obviously. You got to practice what you preach, and I've been consciously doing this. So I have a couple stories for you guys about it. Story number one, there is a pizza shop here in Miami that I pass all the time with a glass window. And about a month ago, I think it was right before the holidays, I just happened to look in, and one of the guys working there was staring at me through the glass window, and he was fine. He was fine. From a distance, I would say he was giving Arab daddy, Middle Eastern poppy, and he was staring to the point where I was like, he's definitely trying to connect and making it clear that he's interested. But it's this small pizza shop. I was on my way home from a run or a bike ride or something. So I'm just like, that was interesting. So a couple weeks ago, I'm going down this street again, and the pizza shop, the pizzeria is coming up. And I'm like, oh, that's the pizza place with the guy. Let's see if he's in there, right? So I look up, or rather to the left, through the glass window again, and there he is. And he's in there by himself. There are no customers, nobody else working there. And again, I look at him, and again, he's looking at me. And then there was like a wall or a pillar where it blocked the view for a couple seconds. And so I'm like, okay, is he still going to be looking at me? Still going to be looking at me? He was still looking at me after I crossed that barrier. And I'm like, okay, it's obvious. Note to self, Kev, he's interested. You're interested. You're curious about this guy. Go home and shower, because I was gross. I think I was coming home from a run. And I don't carry like money or anything with me when I'm running. So what am I going to do? Just walk in like all sweaty and gross and just start talking to him? I was like, no, I'm going to play it cool. And I'm going to go back and get a slice of pizza. But first I'm going to shower. So I showered and I went back, and sure enough, he was still in there by himself. And I went in and I asked for a slice of pizza. And it's funny because I don't know if he was caught off guard or if he was nervous, but he sort of acted like we had never locked eyes before, and I was just a brand new customer that he had never seen before. He's also working, right? So maybe he was just trying to be professional and polite. But it was very sort of, okay, what would you like? Pizza, okay. Anything else? And so I'm like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna have to take the lead. And so I asked him, I think I said, are you Middle Eastern? Just to break the ice. Turns out he's Syrian and Venezuelan, so I was right. And there's a mix there. So he sticks the pizza in the oven, and now he's quiet. So I'm like, okay, maybe he wasn't interested. Maybe he likes to flirt with people through the window, but he's not really engaging me. So whatever. And then he starts talking. So he goes, what about you? You look like you might be from somewhere else. And so now I'm like, okay, Kev, time to turn up the volume of flirtatiousness. So I go, guess, what do you think? And he goes, my first guess is that you're Swiss, which I thought was interesting. Side note, because is there such a thing as a Swiss look? Like, could somebody seem Swiss, like they're from Switzerland? If you've been to Switzerland or you're familiar with Switzerland, please let me know in the comments. As a side tangent, I was kind of surprised that that was his first take because in my mind, Switzerland's not like a real place. Like Switzerland, for people who don't know, is a very small landlocked country between Italy, Germany, and France. And it's basically just a blend of those three cultures. Like literally, I mean, there's no Swiss language. I'm not even sure that there's a distinct Swiss culture other than being overly expensive and posh. But literally, there's parts of Switzerland where they speak French, parts where they speak German, and I believe also parts where they speak Italian. So I thought that was kind of strange as a first guess. But then I clarified it and I said, no, I'm half French and half Turkish. And he was like, oh, okay. Yes, the French. Okay, that makes sense. And then he did something cute, which is when I was paying, he was like, okay, bonne soirée, which is how you say, have a good night in French. So it wasn't quite as passionate or intense as I thought the chemistry would be based on how he would glare at me through the window in a very seductive way. Who knows? Maybe I'll go back to the pizza shop and give it another go. But I was kind of uninspired, but it was a trial test for me to be more sort of proactive in person and trust that instinct, right? Of like, this guy's clearly into you. So that's story number one. Time for story number two. So a couple weeks ago, I took myself out to dinner, which is my new favorite thing, by the way. Every Friday, it's my tradition now. If I don't have plans, I make sure to take myself out to dinner. I think this is important, by the way, versus the easy thing to do, which is just have food delivered to your home. No, I don't mind sitting at a table by myself and people watching. In fact, it's like one of my favorite pastimes. Okay. So I took myself out to dinner. I went to this new restaurant in Miami that just opened, a Greek restaurant, which by the way, the food was not good. I was disappointed. I got mussels and I got Greek fries. The mussels were bland, which you don't want your seafood to be bland. Like seafood, items like mussels, you want them to be really fresh, really flavorful. It was not that. And then the fries, I'm like, how do you mess up fries? So the fries were drenched in this sauce, which I don't know if that's what Greek fries, I don't know if that's like always what that refers to, but they were drenched in this sauce. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't you just put the sauce on the side in case the customer doesn't isn't digging the sauce? There was no option for regular fries, by the way. It was Greek fries or nothing. Or I think maybe there were truffle fries as well, and I that's even worse for me. I don't like anything with mushrooms. So anyway, I was disappointed in the fries. I was disappointed in the mussels, but what I was not disappointed in was the server. So my server was this really handsome, charming, 20 something, I would say, 20 something year old guy who was straight from Italy. And at first he was super friendly and chatty. And I just thought, well, it's a new restaurant. Maybe he wants a really good tip, or B, they want to make sure people have a good first impression and experience so that they'll leave a great review because it's a brand new place. So I didn't think anything of it. I just thought he was doing his job and he was quite good at it, right? Um, but then it was like the signs kept accumulating. So I think right after I ordered, he looked at me and went, anything else you want, let me know. Anything. Which I chuckled out loud because I was like, "What is this an innuendo? Like, why even say that?" Right? It was very like theatrical in that sense, very dramatic. And then every time he would come by, even if he wasn't coming back to me, like going to another customer, bringing food to somebody else, to another patron, he would stare at me, and I was staring back. A, because I'm attracted to him. B, at this point, I'm like a glass of wine in, so I'm feeling, I'm feeling. Ooh, I'm feeling comfortable. But again, C, I'm really trying to maintain eye contact and not like pussy out over that, especially in public. What he would also do, which sure, you could say this is cultural, maybe it's an Italian thing, but it's still unusual. He would consistently touch me. Like, let's say he's going to the table behind me, he would pat me on the back on the way to the person behind me. So at a certain point, I'm like, he is flirting with me. He's interested. And I went from not even having that interest because, I'm just eating at a restaurant. He's serving me. Like, I didn't even think to flirt with the server until I started getting these signals from him. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, now I'm like very curious and also just frankly, I think I was enchanted by how bold he was. So now I turn up the volume, right? And so when he would come over, I would be more conversational and I'm staring at him, doing some of these like, when he would walk up, a nice big smile. And he said at one point, I can tell from your smile that you really liked the dessert. And I was like, I sure did. A little bit of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And so now I'm in strategy mode because the meal is ending and I'm like, Kev, make a move. This is what we talked about. Meaning in my head, my inner monologue, my angel and my devil on my shoulder. We've talked about this. Okay. So I'm thinking, well, he's working. So I don't want to make him uncomfortable. I don't want him to get nervous that like, if he rejects my advances, then it'll affect the tip. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, play it cool. If he brings a paper receipt, with a pen, leave your number. Okay, that's the best case scenario I'm thinking. So that like ball is in his court. But in Miami, oftentimes nowadays, probably anywhere really, now they bring you, not just in Miami, I feel like this is now very much an American thing that they'll bring you the electronic machine to swipe your card and you do the tip stuff right there in the moment. So I'm thinking like, oh, if that happens, then I don't have pen and paper to leave my number. So I'll have to be bold and say to him, like, would you like to stay in touch? Like, do you want to take my number? But I was hoping that wouldn't happen because again, I did not want to put him on the spot. He's working. Like, I don't want to make him uncomfortable. What if all the tables are close together? Like, I just didn't want to put him on the spot. But I was going to do it if I needed to. I was relieved when he brought an old school receipt with a pen, and I'm like, all right, I'm leaving him my number. That's exactly what I did. I was convinced he would call or text the next day or the same night. He did not. I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever had a more obvious flirtatious feeling from somebody. So like I have zero doubt in my mind that he was giving me the signal. But now I'm confused. I'm like, why would he do all that and then not want to engage? And then it dawned on me, I've never been a server. I don't know how this works. Does he even look at the check? Maybe they hand it to the billing person inside. I don't know how this works. So I decided to continue with my bold strategy. And I thought, you know what? Maybe I can find him on Instagram. And sure enough, I went to the restaurant's Instagram, and it's a brand new restaurant. So it had like 20 or 50 followers on Instagram. He was one of the first ones who came up on the follower list. I messaged him, never heard back. Never heard back. I spent a couple days mind fucked about all of this, by the way, because then I thought, did he just do all that to get a bigger tip? Which he did not, by the way. Like, 20% is enough. Okay. In Miami, a lot of restaurants will automatically add in a 20% tip now. I don't need to give more than 20%. But in my mind now, I'm thinking, like, what if he just does that to try to get bigger tips? And I got very, like, in my feelings about, like, was I just manipulated? Like, what was this? Because it felt very mutual. I move on to the next thing, whatever. And a couple weeks after that, it was a beautiful day in Miami. I went to the beach and then I went for a run. So I'm totally zen. And who do I see but the server coming home from the beach, and he's showering at the beach showers, which, by the way, very hot visual. This beautiful man showering in his trunks or whatever he was wearing coming from the beach. And I was so zen and I instantly get nervous because my first thought was, oh my God, it's him. And he was 10 feet away, by the way, very close. Like, I'm pretty sure he had to have seen me. And so for a second, I'm like, make eye contact with him. And then I go, no, don't do that. Don't do that, because he's going to think you're a stalker. You left him your number. He didn't reach out. You DM'd him. He didn't respond. The last thing I need is for this guy to think I'm like following him and making him uncomfortable. So I panicked and I did what I always do when I panic, which is I just froze and I just started stretching. I started stretching at that random spot, which, by the way, I did need to stretch after that long run, but it was just funny because I would never just stop in my tracks to stretch, but I didn't know what else to do. And so I'm doing this thing like stretching and then like glancing over. He had to have seen me, but eventually I just cowered and was like, let me leave this guy alone. I stretched for a couple minutes. He would have come over if he was interested in talking to me. And I'm walking home and now I'm beating myself up because I'm like, no, you should have just been stuck to the strategy of being bold and seen it through. And worst case, what is he going to do? Worst case, you make eye contact, you wave. If he doesn't come talk to you, like, well, he's not going to think you're a creep. Like, it's not, see, I always torture myself with these things, but I should have just tried to lock eyes when he was 10 feet away and to see what happens, if nothing else, to give a juicy update to this story. But get this, you guys. So now I'm beating myself up walking home, and this large man approaches me out of nowhere. And when I say large, I mean he was very tall, like 6'5 probably, and also kind of heavy set. And he came out of nowhere and he just starts talking to me and he's like, "Oh, are you visiting Miami? Where are you from? What's your background?" He just keeps going and going. And I'm trying to catch up to the moment of like, wait, is this guy hitting on me? Like, what is happening? And I'm trying to process it in real time while still really processing the server thing. And I also just finished like an 8 mile run. So a lot is happening and I can't figure out what's happening. This large man was definitely hitting on me, but I'm like, how, he came out of nowhere. It's not even like, we made eye contact and I gave him a signal or something. So I'm so confused as to what's happened. This has never happened, by the way, ever, which made me wonder if somehow this guy picked up that I was scanning the server, the other guy, and maybe that made him think I was cruising. I have no idea, but this has literally never happened, that a guy just comes up to me and like will not get the hint that I'm in my own universe and I was not interested, but I also don't want to hurt his feelings. So I was giving very succinct responses, like one word responses to what he was saying to try to like get him to get the hint, but he was not getting it. So finally, I'm like, "Hey, nice meeting you." I shook his hand, out of politeness and respect. But so he would get the hint, like, "Hey, I'm going home." Like, "All right, bye." And then this guy, he's walking down the same street where I separated from him. So he had to cross the same street consciously, and he's on the other side of the street. So now I'm like getting a little weirded out because I'm thinking, is this guy following me? Like, what is happening with this man? I'm still thinking about the server. And finally, he turned after a block or two. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm being followed. But what a bizarre experience, right? What a bizarre experience. So then I was like, even more upset because I'm frazzled by the man who was not getting the hint, on top of the fact that I was totally distracted by a separate situation. A day in the life, what can I say? A day in the life. But I'm going to continue to be more present, aware of my surroundings, and you can do little subtle things, I feel like, as well to do that. Not just eye contact, but like I realize I always have my sunglasses on. Of course, sun protection, UV protection comes first. But I realized that I even sometimes will leave the apartment with sunglasses almost as like a safety blanket. I think subconsciously sunglasses allow you to kind of disassociate from your surroundings if you don't want to talk to people, and I don't know, maybe you're having a bad hair day, which these days, now that I actually have hair, sometimes we do have bad hair days. I do like the beachy look today, the wavy sort of beachy look that we're going with. Um, I have some people telling me they don't really like how my hair is giving lampshade bop, but I kind of like it. I feel like it looks very boyish, and I like how thick and full of volume it is. So I don't really care what people say. From certain angles, it doesn't look so great, but I'm a fan. I'm a fan. So back to the sunglasses, I'm trying to be more aware of even that. Like, what barriers do you present when you leave your house, your home, that you're not even aware of, or even smiling? I feel like I'm always seriously in thought about something, and something as simple as a smile. The other day I was coming home from a run and this woman smiled at me with a big smile, like, "Oh," and it was so pure and sweet that I just smiled back intuitively. And I thought that was really nice to have a total stranger actually acknowledge you by smiling. I don't know if she was flirting with me or just a very friendly person, but I thought, imagine if you're that person. Like, imagine if you're just walking out of your home, giving that sort of friendly energy to people you see. That is attractive. Like, that was attractive to me, and I'm not even attracted to women, right? So I'm consciously trying to do these things of being more not just aware of my surroundings, but give more signals, we'll say, when I'm interested. So stay tuned on this front. I'm sure I'll have other ridiculous stories to share. And let me know in the comments if any of this resonates with you. Have you tried these tests of just smiling more at men? Or, being more present in person to try to connect versus using apps? Let me know in the comments what you think. I'm curious what you guys have to say. Catch you next time.